Hello and welcome. As people are joining, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've obviously hit on a nerve with the topics here because we're fully booked for this webinar, which is fantastic. So we'll just let everybody quickly join. And while that's happening, let me introduce myself. I'm Julie Robinson. I'm the founder of MenoHealth and author of FAQs on menopause. And all of this has come about from my personal experience, wanting to make sure that no one else has to go through the type of menopause that I did and how we can support each other. And it's wonderful that you're here as a community of people to support each other through a bit of a challenging time. Let me introduce you to our other speaker. Ali, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm Ali Shemwell, one of the MenoHealth trainers. And I'm really passionate about people just getting that support, that not feeling alone. And I've worked in a large organisation, and we had Julie in to run our support groups, which was amazing. And now I love helping other people. It's just brilliant. And I love the whole, oh, thank goodness for that. I don't feel alone anymore. So certainly something we're going to share with you today. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Ali. And we will really benefit from your experience having spoken to not just hundreds, but thousands of people now. So we are recording this session. Please put any questions or comments into the chat box. We'd love to hear from you. And today we are going to be looking at the often overlooked aspects of menopause. And we want to shed some light on symptoms like irritability, rage, anxiety and loss of self-esteem that we don't always associate with this stage of life. Tell us in the chat box if you're experiencing any of these and how you can help each other with your top tips. So we know that period problems and hot flushes are really well known, but these other symptoms can often occur up to a decade before menopause actually starts, which is on average the age of 51 in the UK. So we need to recognise some of the less well known and sometimes bizarre symptoms, because being aware gives you back a sense of control, and knowing that you're completely normal and you're not alone is really reassuring. So we're going to start off with our first little group of symptoms: irritability, anger and rage. And Ali, tell us your experiences of this.
Wow. So those hormonal changes can really impact our mood regulation, and it gives us that heightened emotional responses. And I think there's several times when I was going through that journey and I didn't recognize at the time that it was, my menopause experience, but I just felt like I was back in that menstrual cycle when I was a teenager, when you sort of suddenly become really angry or like you say, irritable. But but it was like having that, but with life experience. And I just remember some days literally feeling like I was two people. One minute I was screaming and shouting and totally almost irrational. And the next minute I was like, yeah, I'm just back to me again. It was like, where's that person just come from?
Yeah.
And where have they gone? Just totally bizarre. But yeah, for people around you, it's actually quite scary because it's like flicking a switch and you've almost become totally a different person. Yeah, really difficult, really difficult.
And we had a social media post that got so much engagement with a picture of menopausal Incredible Hulk, and everyone go, yeah, that's me. You know, this is where you're suddenly bursting with rage. And we will be going through some top tips when we've just covered these symptoms of things that we think might help you. And it is really a little bit of a rattle through all of this, but there's lots more we can help you with, and you'll be getting an email afterwards with more ideas and support. Secondly, then we're touching on this unknown kind of feeling that's described as, I just don't feel like myself anymore. Now, you really feel disconnected. You sort of lose your sense of identity. And often you start looking on Google thinking there's something really wrong with me. So we want to just tackle that one. And Ali, what's your take on this?
Well, I find, to be honest, with the groups that we run and listen to lots of people, we just so often put things down to other issues, don't we? We never take time to put ourselves at the top of the list. And I would say to the people I work with, just have a pause and reflect moment. Just stop and think what's actually happening. What can I do? And like you say, if you sort of say, I just don't feel like myself, like how does that really work? You know, how do you describe that to someone? Um, and I always encourage people and try and empower people to um, think about it like this. So in Japan, there's not a word for menopause. They call it a second spring. And it's about actually, if you don't, I mean, I think you can see now, can't you? The spring bulbs are just showing their heads. You want to be that flower that's sort of flourishing and bright and cheerful. If that's how you were, but you're not now, it's about taking some action and owning that. To move yourself from the bottom of that list to the top of the list.
That's really good advice there, because I think we're all really good at putting everybody else first and we go down to the bottom of the list. This is a time where you can't afford to do that. We're going to have to make that a non-negotiable thing that we fit into our lives. So we're now going to touch on anxiety. And when we did a poll with hundreds of people through our menopause support groups, anxiety was right up there above hot flushes as the top symptom most experienced. And it does come as a shock when you've never previously been an anxious person. As we said, it can happen 10 years before you even think that menopause is going to happen. So it's little wonder that so many women are prescribed antidepressants when they go and see their GP. So, Ali, we've got many examples of this, haven't we?
I think it was like, where do we start with all the examples? But I was working with one lady, and with her job, she used to travel quite a lot around the country. And then she said to me, "Do you know what, Ali? I'm really struggling." She said, "The other day, I had to nip down to the shop in the village," and she said, "It's pouring down with rain, so I had to go in the car." And she said, I just really struggled. I couldn't get out the front door, absolutely petrified to get in the car. Totally irrational considering the hundreds and thousands of miles that she'd driven over the years. And she said, I don't know where it came from. And I just had this almost a sheer panic attack. And so we sort of talked it through and we looked at the other symptoms and it was like, okay, so let's just think about, where we're going with this. But, it just for her, she was just like, where has that come from? What can I do with it? And I've had a couple of women sort of speak to me after a session and they're just like, I need to I need to make some phone calls. And one of them is often we encourage people to call the GP, and they're just like, I can't pick the phone up. And yet that may be something they've done just regularly. It's just like, yeah, I'll get that sorted on the phone. And all of a sudden it's like it's like a freeze moment, isn't it? It's like I can't do that. And it's that anxiety and that almost a sort of panic and fear that is just not anywhere in their personality until obviously their hormones are doing all the things they do
Yeah.
during this time.
Exactly. And this is so turbulent, isn't it, in terms of our hormones? They're not just declining in this gentle slope. They are literally, and we've heard it so many times, it is a roller coaster. And that's why one day is totally different to the next.
Mm.
What we are really sure of is that don't feel that there's something wrong with you when this happens. It's a very natural response. And there are things that we can do about it. That's what MenoHealth is all about. What are the things I can try, and just finding something that was going to work for you. So we're on to low self-esteem and losing our self-confidence, which you've mentioned. You can't even pick up a phone or do something you've always done. And I mean, we have our loss of self-esteem that goes with how we look, our physical self, and it is a time of change with widening waists, maybe thinning hair or chin hairs that suddenly occur, and you think, who is this person in the mirror? But more serious, I feel, is the loss of self-esteem that can really affect you in the workplace. And this is why so many people do leave their jobs. So what's your take on that, Ali?
Oh, wow. I think you find yourself sometimes almost avoiding meetings or someone says, you know, could you do a presentation, and you sort of find a reason why you can't, or maybe you sort of encourage maybe to take the next step in your career, and then you just go, I can't do this. You're not. I think there's that sense of you just not good enough. Yeah, I won't complete that to the standard that somebody wants. You stop believing in yourself, and I noticed with myself actually, and some of my colleagues, that they sort of contributed less and less in the meetings, and it was almost like they were going to say something and then they don't.
Yeah.
And I know there was just probably one of those moments, and I think I could still totally feel it and picture it. But I'd gone for an interview for a promotion. I'd been encouraged to go, you know, and it was the right thing to do. And the previous interview was overrunning slightly, and I was sort of in that waiting area, and all of a sudden, I literally was a hairbreadth away from walking out, because I just didn't think, I'm just not. It's not going to work. I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to get it. Why am I putting myself through this? I'll just stick to the role I'm doing. Total irrational, not practical thoughts, and literally was about to walk out, and then somebody came to get me, and it was like, I haven't got any choice now, because I need to go in, and it was successful, and I thoroughly enjoyed the new role. But that space of time, I really would have just gone, yeah, this, I'm going, because I can't do this. And you know, that's just one, experience, and there's been a few. And I'll be honest, as you say, Julie, we've worked with so many hundreds of people, and that's often a story that we'll hear, particularly if someone's sharing with you one to one. They'll just be like, oh yeah, I remember, and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. Oh, and it's just such a shame, because there's so much experience and knowledge, and we've got so much to give, but we often will just take a step back rather than a step forward.
And I think if your experience will resonate with so many, think of the tens of thousands of people who are not going for that promotion, as you say, or actually thinking, I can't cope, I'm going to leave just at the peak of their career. And we know that by getting the right support or treatment or both, that you feel more able to stay in that job or cope better with your symptoms at home as well. So the first sign is always recognizing the signs, and I think that's the most important thing. We've got a symptom tracker which we'll share with you, and that can help you start the conversation, whether that's with your partner at home, or your colleagues at work, or your GP. So it's really important that you don't suffer in silence. There's that much out there to help. So we're going to really cover just one top tip in each of these areas, because normally in our support sessions, we do each one of these for a full half hour with a deep dive. So it's, here we go. Now, lifestyle changes. I'm going to say this first word that is absolute medicine for menopause, but you'll go, what? And it's exercise. So there's so much research being done now about how movement can impact your menopause symptoms. And I don't just mean your heart and your muscles and your bones. Of course, that's brilliant. But it's about dealing with stress. Stress is the enemy, and it's going to make a lot of the symptoms worse. So when you exercise, you release endocannabinoids. That's nature's very own cannabis that we've got available to us. So even if it's a 10-minute walk after lunch, or using the stairs in between meetings, or doing a nice stretch around your desk, use dancing in the kitchen, whatever you can do, build movement into your daily life, and you will reap the rewards. Ali, you're going to try and touch on a top tip for nutrition. Good luck
I
with that.
am, yeah. But just on your last point, my personal trainer said to me, "Go for a walk after your lunch, not before your lunch." I was doing a walk, then having my lunch, and he said, "No, have your lunch, then go for a walk." And do you know what? It's made a real difference. So I like that one. So
Brilliant.
nutrition, we do need to keep our blood sugar balanced. So the more sort of spikes and dips that you have, the more cortisol that our body produces. So it's a good way to do this is to try and really include protein in every meal and snack. Now, I think that's quite easy in often your main meal of the day and maybe your midday meal, but is thinking about it at sort of probably breakfast time, and also just in those snacks, just take a moment to look at where you've got your protein. Um, I'm going to do alcohol next, aren't I? I can't believe I'm doing that one. Um, so some Finnish researchers found that just one drink a day decreased sleep quality for women by 24%.
That's bad.
24%. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, just having a think about what we are eating and drinking is really important.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. We don't want to be the bearer of bad news there, but I think sleep we know is absolutely vital throughout our lives, but particularly at this stage. And of course, it's a very difficult thing to get. And insomnia was my worst symptom. It was years because mine was not recognised at the time, and I just wish I'd known then what I know now. Again, looking at research, this is from Oxford University, they found that women are 58% more likely to experience insomnia than men, and that we need an additional 20 minutes a day to be able to fulfill the female needs. And from our 40s onwards, we're getting this decline not just in our estrogen and progesterone, but hormones like melatonin, dopamine, and serotonin, which of course is going to affect our body clock and our mood. Now, there is a little practical thing here. I haven't tried it, but maybe you'll go and find out more. This is some research we recently came across, which is that there's a tart Montmorency cherry juice, which is sold as shots, that contain small amounts of melatonin that can help regulate your sleep. And they actually found that people slept on average 84 minutes longer after drinking this tart cherry juice twice a day. So we'll need to look into that one, but you know, it's worth a try, and it's a natural way to try and improve that sleep quality. So, how do you tackle this next one in 1 minute? HRT.
Wow, I'm going to have a good go. So it is a proven way to alleviate many of the symptoms that we talk about, including that anxiety, those sleep problems, and obviously the hot flushes. It is a lifeline for some, but we do hear some say it's really quite disappointing, or they can't take it for medical reasons. And there's some people that choose just not to take it. It's a really personal decision. It's obviously dependent on many factors, and it's a good idea to have a look through the NICE guidelines, and to learn a bit more. And remember, really, whether you take HRT or not, there are still things that you can do to help yourself through menopause. There's the alternative therapies, and we hear some women really tell us that they really work for them, that hypnotherapy, acupuncture, CBT. And obviously, there's a wide range of supplements. But I'm going to let you cover supplements, Julie.
Again, we can do not just half an hour, but hours and
Obviously.
hours on alternative therapies and supplements. And it's a really important one for us to try. And as long as it's not going to do you any harm, I think it is trial and error, because we hear, oh, I've been doing evening primrose oil, it's brilliant. Someone else says, didn't work for me. See, it is a case of trial and error. Obviously, just check with your pharmacist, because they're really well versed on whether it has interactions, any natural supplement, whether it's a vitamin, mineral, or anything else, if you take other meds. The one thing that we know works very well, and we do seem to be quite depleted in this apparently, is magnesium. So if you can get it in your foods, of course, that's always the best thing, but it does depend on your gut health as to how much you're absorbing. So it's in green leafy veg, your spinach and kale. It's in nuts, brown rice and whole grain bread, fish, dairy foods. So we should be getting enough. However, that isn't always the case. So you might find, and I did when I discovered it, find that magnesium before bed, a supplement, really helped me. And a lot of people find it works with restless leg syndrome, that relaxation for the muscles. But you can also get it in sprays and lotions now, or you know what, you can have a bath with Epsom salts in, and apparently that can even help relieve some of that stress, and it will just help you relax before bed. So investigate that one further, and as I say, you'll be getting all this information afterwards, so don't worry about remembering it, because we know brain fog can be another issue. So we'll definitely be following up with some practical things that you can look at. Now, stress, we said it was the enemy. How do you go about reducing stress in our busy lives?
Well, we really suggest that people think about some sort of breathing exercise, and it's something you can do very easy. You can even do it and nobody really know. I'm just going to just take you through box breathing. It's great. You can just sit. You don't. You could have to imagine it, but we'll draw it. So just take a moment, and we're going to breathe in for 4. So 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to hold for 4, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to breathe out for 4, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to hold for 4. We'll just do it one more time. So we're going to breathe in for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 4, 2, 3, 4, breathe out for 4, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 4, 2, 3, 4. We can just do that. We don't have to draw the box. We can just imagine it. So if you're just in that moment, just take time and just breathe. Focus on your breathing. It will stop the other thoughts. And just take a moment. There you go.
I think that that helps if you're in a meeting and you've got that little bubble of anxiety starting to build, or you think, I'm feeling the hot flush start, the volcano. And if we can try and tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, and slowing your breathing has been proven to be effective. So it's something we can try. Just got to make it that few seconds to try it. Now, supporting each other, support systems, absolutely vital. What would you say there, Ali?
It's absolutely crucial. It's so important that we talk about what we're going through, both at work and at home. Sometimes we just need to be looking for that support, maybe from a friend. They'll generally sort of be really quite supportive, because often your peer group are going through what you're going through. You know, your family, they'll have noticed maybe things aren't quite as they were, and so they'll be concerned. So actually, you talking about it will help. And support groups are amazing. So we'll also share information afterwards about, you know, where to go for help. But what I would say, and I think I've seen this in so many instances, is the first thing is say the word menopause out loud, because some people just don't want to actually say it. And once you've said it and you've heard yourself say it, then start just talking. And if you're here and you're thinking, I can see somebody else going through this, I'm really trying to support them, never underestimate the power of active listening. Somebody just listening to you, focused on you, makes such a difference. So we'll have a bit of breathing, then let's get the topic out there. Let's lift the lid, let's talk about it, let's say and describe it. And so many times, particularly on the support groups, somebody will say, that's me. You know, and you feel like you're the only one, but actually, when you hear somebody else describe what you recognise going on for you, all of a sudden you're not alone, and they'll just it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
More and more people will say, "That's me." Yeah, oh, and then all of a sudden it's not such a difficult thing to manage on your own. So don't be on your own. Say the word out loud and start talking. And if you're supporting somebody, just listen to them, because it will make such a difference.
That is absolutely spot on. When again we did one of our questionnaires with our social media followers, and we said, what would you say to someone who you're asking for their support, whether that's your partner, colleague, or whatever? And they said the first is learn about it, you know, get the knowledge so you know what I'm experiencing. And the second is listen. And the third was be patient. And I think that if we can all do that for each other, then that's going to help. So the things that we do, at MenoHealth, we offer a 10-week support program that can run several different topics and chats that runs throughout the year in the workplace. We do one-off taster sessions, come and dip your toe in the water. We've got our Meno Sisters Facebook group, which you can join for that 24/7 listening, because there's always somebody there that knows what you're going through, even if you're in the middle of the night and you just want to reach out. We've got a menopause first aid CPD. That's an accredited CPD, which gives you or other people in your workplace lots of knowledge. And of course, we've got my FAQs on menopause book, which is just full of practical tips based on the sessions we run, where it is listening and responding to the questions people ask, and not just the medical side of things, you know, looking at all those other things. So I can see that we have had so many comments and things coming through, because there's hundreds of you on the call, and so it would really be impossible to go and answer every question here. But one other thing we'll mention here, someone's asking about magnesium and what to take. There's a fantastic nutritionist, Jackie Lynch, who has written the book, The Happy Menopause. We always recommend that because it's a really great way to delve into nutrition, and it's very much practical, and it'll explain a bit more about all of the vitamins and supplements and so on. And she does some great podcasts too. In terms of diagnosis and remembering what the NICE guidelines are, which we put a link to here in the chat, and it'll be in the follow-up email. That's a really important thing for you to get to know what should happen when you visit the doctor, what's best practice, and what does the NHS recommend. If you're under 45, they will be doing blood tests. If you're over 45, they can diagnose on symptoms alone. So that's where the symptom tracker comes in, doesn't it, Ali? You've got to be able to keep a look and track not just your periods. I think it helps if you're also looking at your mood and emotions as well.
Absolutely. It's like you almost need the sort of the symptom tracker just to identify the things that you're experiencing. And so many times, how many times do we say to it? And they say, well, I've only got one or two. And you say, that's fine. Let's just run through those. And all of a sudden, I remember one lady said, oh my goodness, I've ticked 14. But it's a little bit of journaling, isn't it? It's a little bit of just being mindful of what is happening, and noticing if there's a pattern, or, you know,
Yeah,
like the trigger things that we often hear, sort of caffeine or alcohol or particular food. It's just having that more awareness. And
yeah,
and when we say about putting ourselves at the top of the list, it absolutely is just taking that time for yourself to say, I mean, you look
yeah.
after everybody else amazingly, I'm sure, but we don't sort of take time to sort of look at how we are and what's going on for us.
Absolutely. And from our support sessions, we've heard, and on social media, practical things that people do. And one of the things that we all smiled about, and really I can associate with this, is when you feel that incredible Hulk moment, is that some people, if you're at home, you can go into a bedroom and punch the pillow and take out, and it's just letting the aggression go. Other people, if they can get that walk and put the ear pods in and just have some music on, sing out loud. Others say, I have to count to 10. You think, oh, that's something, you know, it's an old fashioned way of doing it. But actually, it just stops that instant reaction that you regret afterwards. We've heard about how people can lose their temper at work and then think, oh, what have I done? So we can try and find some of these practical ways to help with the rage. And then with anxiety, there's so many resources now available to try and help you just again find something that works for you. In terms of the NHS, the thing they recognise that is evidence-based is cognitive behavioural therapy, and the Women's Health Concern have got a link to doing this for yourself. In a nutshell, it's talking to yourself like you would to your friend. And Ali, I think that is a really nice thing to leave everybody with, because aren't we self-critical? I should be. I wish I had. I shouldn't. Why am I feeling like this? Instead of, well, what would you say if your friend just told you how they were feeling?
Absolutely. Yeah, I always say that is absolutely brilliant advice, isn't it? What would you be saying to a friend? Well, you know, find a mirror and say it to yourself, because you
Yeah,
know we are really important, and it's so important that we are flourishing in our second spring.
I absolutely agree. And looking at these comments here, we can see, yeah, tinnitus is another symptom that you wouldn't recognise. You know, having sore gums, dry eyes, these are all lots and lots of things that can happen. And that's why it's really important to be knowledgeable and find out what you can do. Now, in terms of HRT, this is such a personal decision and it's got to be weighed up, risks versus benefits about what's right for you. But whether you want to or can have it, you should be doing the other non-negotiables, looking at your nutrition, looking at your sleep, looking at your movement, and getting the help you need to try and de-stress. So I think we have had to come to an end here, but it's been fantastic to see so many of you. Will look back at these comments, and we will also be sending you info with a blog, so you can follow up on that. And of course you can email us if you want to get some further support and see what we can do. We can't give medical advice, of course, but I hope that that's been valuable to you, and we'll go back and look at all of your comments now. So thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Julie. It's been great to be with you today.
And thanks everybody for joining us, and we hope we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.